there's a lot of part-time jobs being created, but there's a lot of positives in these numbers too. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I think we're tracking much better than the RBA thought we would and much better than the Treasury thought we would. But yeah, the Australian economy today might have more jobs in it than it used to, but it's a far more part-time economy than it was at the beginning of the crisis.
What is fueling our recovery, if you like?
Well, what has been fueling our recovery was the government stimulus spending. There's no doubt that, pumping billions of dollars a month into the economy through things like JobKeeper has had an enormously beneficial effect. Old-fashioned Keynesian stimulus, as it's called, clearly worked. What we haven't seen yet is the consequences of withdrawing that stimulus. Now, when JobKeeper was scrapped, we heard the Secretary of Treasury say it could cost 100 to 150,000 jobs. Now, we won't see that in the data for another month or so, but while that was described as a bump at the time, if we see 100,000 or 150,000 jobs lost, that's more of a shoulder charge than a bump.
Yeah, it's going to be more than a bump indeed. And we're not seeing any overseas migration at the moment. It's at zero for obvious reasons. Do you think that's helping?
Look, it's a mixed blessing. Basically Australia has had some of the highest population growth in the developed world for decades. All those new people coming in all the time are both customers and job seekers. So the Australian economy has grown because so many people have moved here, around 1 million people every 4 years, extraordinary growth. But at the moment, while we don't have new customers showing up, we also don't have a lot of new people looking for work showing up. So it's a mixed blessing, but certainly I think in the short term it's probably helping to keep the unemployment rate down, but it's also slowing the rate of economic growth quite significantly.
The government has talked about this gas-led recovery really underpinning local manufacturing in many ways. Have we seen any evidence of that so far?
No, there is no gas-led recovery. We've recovered without gas. In fact, to the extent the economy's recovered, and the government's rightly kind of proud of how quickly the economy has recovered, it's very important to know that employment in the gas industry fell 10% in the last 12 months. So given that we've already been led out of COVID, it can't be gas-led because gas has been going backwards. Now, do we now want to spend billions of dollars subsidising new gas projects now that we've actually made it through the crisis? That seems like the worst of both worlds. So no, the economy's recovered without gas.
Are you talking about employment within the gas industry, or I guess the government might be referring to more the gas industry and gas giving more reliability to our energy sector, therefore underpinning manufacturing?
Well, again, whatever they're talking about hasn't happened because we've created hundreds of thousands of jobs in the last 6 months, and we've done it without the gas industry leading it. Now, if the government now wants to argue, now that we're back to the levels of employment we had pre-COVID, if they're now saying gas is the best way to stimulate manufacturing jobs or the best way to stimulate some other activity, well, let's see the evidence for that. But again, we're back to where we were with less people working in gas today, not more. And look, the reality is the decision to export Australia's gas, we started doing this 6 or 7 years ago. The minute we decided to start exporting our gas, we decided that the gas price was going to go up more than double. So it was policy decisions that doubled the price of gas. It's already had a big impact on manufacturing. It's never going to be as cheap as it used to be. I'd suggest the sooner we admit that, the sooner we can make good plans.
Okay, if you admit that, what is the place for gas in our economy at the moment, in our energy mix?
Well, the place is that it's declining. Everyone knows it's declining. In fact, the New South Wales Environment Minister was out, and Energy Minister Matt Keane was out this week saying, the simple economics of this are that renewables and storage, right now, today, renewables and storage are cheaper than building new gas. So if you want cheap electricity, it's not going to come from gas. If you want to help the gas industry, then you invest in gas. But
cost is
the
only one
technological
element.
change.
What about reliability?
Oh, look, reliability is a real issue. Coal-fired power stations keep breaking down, gas-fired power stations keep breaking down, pipelines get disrupted from some point, and yes, the wind doesn't always blow. There's no form of energy that's always there when we need it. Coal-fired power stations are more likely to break down on hot days than cold days, and it's the hot days when we need the energy the most. So gas plays a role today. No one's suggesting it doesn't. Gas will play a role tomorrow. No one's suggesting it won't. But what batteries allow us to do is store all sorts of energy, however it's produced, and the price of batteries is getting lower and lower. That's going to provide more and more stability and security going forward.
Are we there yet? I mean, when it comes to batteries, I think we've all been asking this question for the better part of 2 decades at the moment. We've seen the climate wars play out for so long, but, you know, we keep on talking about batteries coming on and getting better and better, but it doesn't seem like we're there yet.
Well, because it took 40, 50 years to build the energy system we've got. We're not going to build a new one overnight. But what we do know is that the Liberal government in South Australia didn't just inherit the world's biggest battery, but it's determined to build more. What we do know is that the Liberal government in New South Wales is saying loud and clear the best way to help the aluminium industry, the best way to help big energy users in New South Wales is to create an enormous renewable energy zone and facilitate big investment in more renewables and more batteries. So that's what the Liberals in South Australia think, that's what the Liberals in New South Wales think, and indeed the Liberals down in Tasmania are talking about a 200% renewable energy target so they can export renewables. So, you know, there's no culture war here, there's no energy war here, there's no economics war here. There's just a federal government that kind of is stuck in the past.
Well, perhaps not just the federal government though. Labor has just pre-selected a coal miner in the Upper Hunter seat for the upcoming by-election. It did that on purpose.
Oh, absolutely. And look, I'm glad there are coal miners that want to be in Parliament. I'm glad there are nurses. I'm glad there are lawyers. I'm glad there are doctors. Look, the Upper Hunter is the heart of coal mining in Australia at the moment. But right now in the Upper Hunter, the biggest mines have been running at under capacity for quite some time. The Port of Newcastle chose not to expand its coal loading terminals because of the underutilisation. But despite the fact that existing coal mines have laid off staff and are running well below capacity, a kind of culture war has broken out where we're pretending that if 23 new coal mines are approved, that will somehow help the existing coal workers in existing coal mines. Now, you know, Economics 101 says if we build new coal mines in the Hunter, what we're actually going to do is displace workers in the existing mines. That's what the economics says, but the politics has been turned into, do you love coal and want more coal mines, or do you hate coal and want to shut them down? The sensible centre position is obvious. Just, we don't have to shut anything down. We just need to stop building new ones, as Malcolm Turnbull made clear.
Well, neither party seems to be doing that. And, you know, Malcolm Turnbull had the shortest board appointment probably of all time after there was backlash against that. And the state Labor is saying, no moratorium on new coal mines. Is that just a reflection of the political reality of what voters want in the Upper Hunter?
I think it reflects the political reality of the members of Parliament who currently don't live in the Hunter and think that being kind of pro-coal or anti-coal is the choice we face. The Australia Institute polled 600 people in the Upper Hunter, and the people who actually live in the Upper Hunter, 60% of them, 2 in 3 people in the Upper Hunter said, we don't want to shut the coal mines down, we don't want to open 23 new ones, we'd just like to stick with the number we've got. That's a majority of people in the Upper Hunter, a majority of National Party voters in the Upper Hunter, a majority of the Shooters, Farmers and Fishers Party in the Upper Hunter. So look, Mark Latham and John Barilaro and other politicians, Joel Fitzgibbon, they want to have this simplistic fight. Are you on coal's side or are you a hippie greenie, or as Mark Latham called me, a lefty fairy? Because that's how you have political debate in Australia, name calling. So it's one thing to kind of say, are you for coal or against coal? But the fact is, no one would build a new hotel in Cairns at the moment to help unemployed tourism workers.
Right.
How will building a new coal mine in the Upper Hunter help the already struggling coal mines up there? Once we start having that conversation, I think we'll see some sense show up. And the people who understand coal mining the best are the people who work in it and live next door to it. And again, according to our survey, 60% of people in the Upper Hunter are happy with the number of mines they've got. They don't want to shut them down tomorrow, but they don't want 23 new ones either.
All right, no lefty fairy. We'll just call you Chief Economist for the Australia Institute, Richard Dennis. Thanks so much.
Thank you.